Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Editor's Mind. Today we have a photo that I took when I was just out on a photo walk in downtown Fredericksburg, or Old Town Fredericksburg, Virginia. And this is just an image or a scene that kind of captured my attention, and I'll show you what it looked like before. So this is the image without any editing. I did shoot in JPEG. I shot all of the images that day in JPEG only, primarily because I wanted to make sure that whatever I put into the editing workspace is already kind of what I was seeing on the day. So I built a profile inside of my Sony a6700 and I just went with that. It's not always how I shoot, but I didn't want to do any extra work besides stylistic work, which is what I'm going to show you in today's edit. Went ahead and turned off everything, and this again is just the image before with no edits on it whatsoever. So the very first thing that I did in this image was I activated Brilliance AI, because Brilliance AI is a great tool. And what it did here is it added in some contrast. So if I turn this off, turn it back on, darken down everything, and added in some contrast. And I did kind of fine tune this by pulling it down to 33 points. That's going to be different for every single image. So don't worry so much about the numbers. Just think about the idea of however you have your Brilliance AI configured in the preferences, and then what that means and how that translates into your images when you're editing them. So coming down to the tone and color, because most of this was Brilliance AI, I didn't actually modify much of anything, because again, I wanted to have minimal requirements on the post-production, because quite frankly, I would have been fine with this image straight out of camera. I did think it was a little bright, which is why I wasn't upset with what Brilliance AI did here. So I didn't do anything in the local section, and I obviously didn't do anything with sky. So then we have effects, and this is where my image really started to build up. And the thing that was bothering me a little bit when I was thinking about it was the color. So I went ahead and I applied a LUT. Now, if you're not familiar, the way that the layer stack works is the very first filter at the bottom of your filter stack, it's going to impact the image first. So I have the LUT filter, and then you'll see that I added in a curve filter, and then I end it with a lens blur. So let's go ahead and turn on the LUT filter, because again, I didn't really care for the color. I wanted something that wasn't going to look very real or common in the idea of when you're walking, you see things in a certain way. I wanted to be a little bit more artistic with this image. So I went ahead and applied a LUT, and I actually used a built-in color grading LUT. So everyone who has access to ON1 Photo RAW should have access to this particular filter, or this LUT, and this color grade. So it's in the color grading section and it's iced. And I just went ahead and pulled down on the saturation so it wasn't so strong, as well as the opacity, because I didn't need this to impact the image completely, but it is about 59%. That's pretty straightforward. So turning it off, you can see the image is heavily saturated and the reds are very, very prominent. When I turn this on, it kind of mutes those reds, adds in a greenish blue tint to the image, and I really do enjoy that. So the next item I added was a curve filter. Now, for anyone who understands how I edit, I really enjoy reducing my black points and introducing white in areas where black normally would be. The result of that makes a flatter looking image. It's a aesthetic that I really do enjoy in my photos. So I went ahead and did exactly that on this particular image. And then of course, I also pulled down on the shadowed areas just outside of the peak in the histogram in the shadows. And that's a technique that I'm really starting to enjoy doing on my images as I work through and figure out what my style is, because I do have a style. I know that I like dark contrasty images, but I'm also enjoying this more faded look. It's an acquired taste. Not everyone will enjoy it, but this is becoming a photo idea that I really do appreciate. And then of course, I also have a dip down here in the highlight section. And that was really just so I can kind of tame the highlights in the overall image. But remember, my goal here was to do minimal editing, which is why I shot in JPEG. So that's where I am so far. So this is the before, and then this is what it looks like with the curve. Now, I could have stopped here because I really did achieve the look that I wanted when it comes to color and light, but I felt like I just wasn't getting enough separation between the main subject and all of the secondary subjects. So that's where this lens blur comes in handy. And so if I turn this on, you'll see that it's a very, very subtle. I don't know if it'll even come through on YouTube, but if I hit the letter O, you can see how the separation is really just going into that background area. I just used the quick mask AI brush to create this, and this is what I was able to achieve. These items, the secondary subjects, if you will, or whatever you want to call them, they were blurred by the lens, so I didn't need to blur them any further because it was just looking weird. That's the reason why I cut those ones out and protected them from this effect, and I only applied it to the background. So if you pay attention to the tree, the sidewalk, this truck, and even the sky, you'll notice that, and really over here in the brick, you'll notice there's more detail and sharpness in those areas, even though this background is pretty blurred just because of the distance between the subject and the lens. If I turn it back on, it just very subtly separates everything and brings the focus into my primary subject, which is the statue of the Indian here. So before, this is what it looks like. Again, I was happy with this straight out of camera, and this is what I made when I got it back into ON1, and I'm actually really happy with the way that this came out as well. Now, this is one of those times when you're probably wondering, well, Chris, why were you shooting JPEG instead of RAW? And I didn't even capture this image at all in RAW. I kept the camera in JPEG fine. So all I have are JPEG images from this photo walk. And beyond the reason of editing very minimally, I was really wanting to be more focused on capturing things really well in the camera and getting something out of the camera that's ready to go. And that's why I shot JPEG only. And it was a challenge for me because I shoot in RAW and I recover a lot of stuff. And I felt like I was starting to fall back on my photography. So that's the reason why I went ahead and applied a new technique of shooting in JPEG only. And if I'm being completely honest, I had zero expectations of what I was going to get out of this photo walk. I was literally just out to enjoy the day because the day that I photographed this, it was beautiful. And I was with my daughter, so we were just spending time as a father and daughter, and she's getting into photography. So I didn't want to be focusing so much on trying to be technically correct. So anything that captured my attention, I just went ahead and I took a snapshot and we kept walking. That's all that I was doing here. So I think it's a great thing for you to try. And when you get back into the editing window, it really stretches your mindset on how you can effectively edit your images. This is the reason that I shot in JPEG, but also I wanted to show you that it's okay to shoot in JPEG. I was actually giving a webinar or a showcase of ON1 to a photo club, and there was a gentleman in that club who made claim that he only shoots JPEG. He doesn't shoot RAW. And that got me thinking, well, why shouldn't I shoot in JPEG? Let's figure it out because cameras are fantastic these days. JPEG is a great way to go. Now, I'm still going to encourage everyone to photograph in RAW, especially if it's paid work, or if you want to get the most out of the capture. Definitely want to shoot in RAW. But JPEG, perfectly fine. I mean, here's the before And here's what I did inside of ON1 that I didn't necessarily have to do, but I enjoyed it. So hopefully you found some value in this episode of me building up this particular JPEG image, and thank you for those who listen to the rant. If you want to learn about ON1 Photo RAW or just photo editing in general, consider signing up for a coaching call. The link for that is in the description box below. If you want to save some money when you purchase anything over on the ON1 website, consider using my coupon code FreeWillPhotos20. I make a small commission, but that's at no extra charge to you. I'm greatly appreciative of everyone who uses it. Until next time, I want you to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.